Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got a little bit of an interesting video for you guys that wasn't planned. Clearly working on a video right now and all set up to do this one, to record this video for next week. Little hint, it's going to be upgrades for the Game Face Try-On. I ran it at a war this past weekend and I absolutely fell in love with it, and I've got some things I want to try and show you guys, put some results up and put it up against the original results that we ran a few weeks ago. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. I had to get this video done first because news broke today that Dart Zone announced their Mark IV, and pre-orders are going up very, very soon at the beginning of next month, April. Yeah, I wanted to go over some of the information they put up on their website for Vault members, or Dart Zone Vault, I guess, members. I'm not sure. It's a free membership. I got an email from them earlier today, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. There's a lot of good information in that email on the website, and you got to do a little bit of digging, but for the most part, it's kind of all set out in front of you except for the price. So, anyway, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look and see exactly what types of features and what we can expect from the Mark IV. So the website shows that it blasts up at 200 feet per second and goes up to 125 feet. Has a 15 dart capacity, which that can, based on magazines, you can change that, and it includes 30 darts. So those are kind of like the top tier, like, bullet points they want you to take a look at. Now, some of the features that it includes is a airtight metal supercharged muzzle extension. This is kind of like the Deuce Pro, that Adventure Force, which I think is owned by Dart Zone. I'm not sure how the hierarchy works, but anyway, the Deuce Pro was a pistol or revolver that you could fire without the muzzle on it, and you'd get like 110, 115 feet per second, and you'd put the muzzle on and you got more like 150, and that's because it created it was a brass barrel, I believe, or a metal barrel that sealed into the existing barrel, which basically gives you an extra like 4 or 5 inches of worth of barrel. And the fact that it's air sealed just makes it all the more effective when it comes to that type of add-on. It's not just a chunk of plastic. So that's what we've got here, and it looks like it's adding on a significant amount of barrel length. So we're not talking like an extra 3 or 4 inches. It looks like from the picture, and there's not really much to go on besides this person's hand. So if it's kind of like my size of hand, you're looking at probably an extra 8 inches worth of barrel. It does have this interesting kind of faux plastic barrel wrap around it, which is nice. And if you zoom in nice and close, you can see that there's actually a metal barrel inside of there. So this, in fact, does look almost identical to what they did with the Deuce Pro. So we're going to kind of expect where that 200 feet per second is coming from. And it's also obviously going to help the 125 feet as far as like distance is concerned. Scrolling down, it's going to include a scar barrel, which looks very similar to the Worker scar barrel that comes with the Worker Harrier. So yeah, just looks like friction fits in there. It has, the picture shows, and this is interesting, I'm hoping this is true, but the picture shows them inserting it into just the blaster itself and not the muzzle. If you look at the muzzle picture again, it doesn't look like there's a lot of room for that attachment to fit in there. So I'm hoping that there's enough for the, enough wiggle room that it will insert into that the supercharged muzzle, because if you have to choose between longer barrel or using a muzzle, then the modding community is going to have to get to work and figure out a way to kind of Dremel that out to allow the insertion of the scar barrel. Moving down, it looks like it's got a pretty decent sized paddle release for the magazine. I'm assuming, they would be crazy to have a proprietary magazine at this point, so I'm assuming that Worker magazines would work. I'm hoping Dart Zone ones. If the Dart Zone ones work, then we know the Talon magazine should work. So that shouldn't be an issue. It's got flip up iron sights, which, you know, take it or leave it. If you're in a stock war, you know, it is what it is. The other thing that's really cool is you have the stock has a compartment that you can store your scar barrel in, which is really sweet. That's very kind of them to include that. When you're using the scar, you can put something else in there, like, you know, Skittles or something. Easy to see if the blaster is primed before accessing the spring for extra level of safety. So it's got a nice little window in where the plunger rod and the spring meet, and you can see if it's been primed or not. And that's really neat. I really enjoy that. That's something that we haven't seen so much in the hobby as a kind of a feature across multiple blasters. So it's kind of a neat idea for them to include that. Over molded grip prevents slipping of ease for easy handling on the field. We'll see about that. I'm gonna leave because the last blaster that they put out that had one of those, or not the last one, but one of the blasters that they put out, I can't remember which one it was. The Mark II, or no, the Mark III had a really nice rubber grip that didn't move around, but I think it was the Mark 1.2 where the rubber sleeve just kind of, when you after you played for like a half hour, like it just wrapped around and it just got very uncomfortable very quickly. Go from 200 feet per second to competition to friendly 120 feet per second with a quick spring change. Now, if you look closely, this is interesting. I'm kind of curious how this works. This stock looks like it has a Nerf attachment point, and that looks like that's how they're accessing the spring. So it's not going to have like your traditional buffer tube stock like, you know, the Striker, the Nexus Pro. It's got this one of a kind stock that holds the spring in. It just, I don't understand why they thought that design choice was such a good idea. Like, it's kind of like pick one or the other, right? Like, I understand the appeal to have the ability to go back and use like your Nerf stocks and stuff like that. I completely understand. Not my cup of tea, mostly because I kind of got into I came back to the hobby before all of that. Like, I don't have a bucket or totes or, you know, a slew of Nerf attachment points to dive into and, you know, modify my blasters. So I'm not in that camp. So this isn't really that important to me. I understand that if you are in that camp, it is important to you. So hear me out. To me, that attachment point doesn't look like it's going to work for any other Nerf blaster, any other blaster stocks besides this one, because it's got to have a place for the spring to go. So why wouldn't they just copy and paste like the Striker or the Nexus Pro and put this on here? I don't know. It seems like a very, very weird design choice. We'll have to get it and take a look. But just from that one picture alone, it does look like a Nerf attachment point. It's got that square kind of like lug on the end of it. I do like the feature that they're highlighting here. I do like the fact that you can go from 200 to 120, you know, with a spring swap, which would indicate that the spring's included. So allow like the Worker where you're getting 2 springs. We'll see. Next up, featuring Bamboo 2X darts for maximum accuracy. Now, this is interesting because they don't tell you a lot of information about the darts right here on the website. You have to kind of do a little bit of digging. So we're going to skip a little bit down, and if you scroll all the way down past the very bottom where it shows like the compatible darts or whatever, it shows the 2.0 darts, which are the same kind of like bamboo green, and then they have a red tip instead of the purple tip. So if you scroll down, it says what's included. If you arrow over a couple spaces, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I want to talk about this because it's important. If you arrow over to where it says it brings over the Bamboo 2.5 length Pro darts, you can click on the Learn More button, and it gives you some information about the dart. And this is really exciting because as a reviewer, you know, the bamboo darts that we're getting now, the 2.0 ones, they're kind of like a point of contention. Some people like really like them, some people really hate them, and that's mostly because of the weight. Now, we just got done filming the review for the Worker Harrier, and that thing loves bamboo 2.0 darts, especially if you have a scar barrel on, like both, you know, the long barrel, well, the long barrel that's included in the long spring, that thing absolutely loves those darts. And the accurate, not only the accuracy, but the precision is chef's kiss. But the reason why people are kind of ho-hum about them is because of the weight. So if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, it says description. A redefined edition of the Fortified Legacy. The Bamboo 2X is designed with Dart Zone's signature high-performance FPS with the advantage of pinpoint accuracy. So here's the good part. So the Bamboo 2.0, this was these right here. The Bamboo 2.0 was designed with the combined weight of 0.75 grams, making it the lightest and fastest we've ever created. Now, or made. Now, 0.75, I don't know if that's an average, but most of mine measure out to 0.7. I don't have my scale, but most of mine measure about 0.7, 0.72, somewhere in there. So I'm not sure exactly where you're getting the 0.75. At any rate, the all-new Bamboo 2X has been refined with a denser foam and a combined weight of 0.85 grams. So this new dart is slightly heavier than this dart. Now, the other thing that people were kind of frustrated about is, again, the density. They talk about it. You know, it's a little bit flimsier than, let's say, like a Worker Gen 2 dart. Like, you can kind of see the difference. You know, this isn't a very scientific, you know, trying to apply the same pressure, but you can see like the dart post hole is just kind of, it just kind of crumbles when you put any type of pressure on it. Whereas with the Worker dart, it doesn't. So the interesting thing is this heavier weight going to put them in more of a class with like the Worker darts, where they're not going to fly as far, but they're going to be a little bit more accurate? I'm not, you know, only time will tell. So we'll see if that point, you know, that 0.1 gets them anything as far as additional, you know, points as far as, you know, precision, accuracy, distance, all that stuff. So good to know. They do mention in here that it is to help with longer life for each dart. So they are kind of noting the fact that they're acknowledging the fact that inadvertently, rather, the Bamboo 2.0 have kind of a lower lifespan because they aren't as heavy. So anyway, getting back to the announcement, so they've got they've kind of got like a sizzle reel or whatever. You can kind of see it in action. The one thing that they didn't talk about is this foregrip, and I'm kind of curious to see. I hope there's a Picatinny rail underneath it. But if you look at the model, the actual grip kind of wraps around the barrel, which is kind of strange in a way. It's got to have I'd be shocked if it didn't have Picatinny under there. But being able to use your own foregrip is something that a lot of nerfers really enjoy, and if they were to kind of leave that feature out, would be kind of, you know, obviously leaving money on the table, in my opinion. Let's see here. If we kind of scroll down, it talks about what's included, and then, you know, the what's included section is actually pretty cool. It talks about, so you get pro mask, eye protection. So this is the same mask that comes with the 1.2 and the 2.1, the pistol, those kind of like the ski goggles with the red outline or whatever, and they've got like the strap or whatever that goes around, and it's supposed to be a higher density goggle versus like just like the glass, like the shop glasses that come with like the 2.0, the Mark III, things like that. So I mean, they're not my cup of tea, but I'm glad they're including, you know, something in there. It says low FPS spring, so it doesn't say anything in here about a high FPS spring, so I would assume that the low FPS spring is separate from the blaster itself, and they're not saying, oh, put the spring, the 120 spring in plus the muzzle attachment, and you boom, you've got 200 feet per second. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You have to have a little bit more power. So I'm assuming that there's a second spring in there that gets you to that 200 along with the muzzle. That would be my guess. But yeah, it's coming in with a red color, which has been rumored to be available on their site, probably through Amazon, things like that, probably at Target. But there's also a limited edition blue one, which is kind of interesting for Dart Zone to release a different color of one of these kind of main like blasters. It's pretty exciting in a way if red's not your color and you really, the blue looks really sharp. I'm kind of impressed, and if I didn't have this, I probably would go with the blue one. But just for, completionist sake, I think I would go with the red one. But that's just me. But I'm excited to get this one in the shop. I'm excited to chrono it and get it out on the range and see what kind of performance you're getting. I didn't get a chance to review the Deuce Pro, so having that muzzle attachment kind of has me interested. I'm kind of curious, like, how does that feel? What does it make it sound like? What does it do to your accuracy? Is the scar barrel attachment point gonna work? Is that a thing, or is that something that they're gonna be like, well, you get to choose one or the other, you can't have both? So we'll see. But at any rate, let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you think about this announcement. Kind of caught us off of left field, especially with the Mark IV, like a name. Like you would think it would be like a kind of a revision of the 1.2. This would be like the 1.3, I guess. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting. So like I said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. I gotta get back to this video now.